What is it that you need to work on to have your care plan in place? You can gain independence from your past self. The whole camera was off. Okay. This is Rhea, and this is Just the Who of Us, where we talk about a range of topics, including life events, current events, spirituality, entertainment, family relationships, as well as answering listener questions and more. So today I want to spend a little time talking about independence from your former self. It could be something as simple as growing in your coping mechanisms or personality changes. So I was driving the other day, and for some reason I just thought about this time when I hadn't used Twitter in years, like many years. I go on to Twitter and I'm looking at these old tweets and I'm like, who is this person? Like, ew, the things that I posted didn't even seem like things that I would say. And it was because, well, first of all, I was a good bit younger. So I was probably in my early 20s. I mean, it was a long time ago. And in my early 20s, I was going through a separation, going from a married mom of four to divorcing mom of four, and just a lot of stuff going on. And I I hadn't written my book yet, so I hadn't really dealt with a lot of things, and I could tell because that person was, wow, she had issues. uh, you know, Part of it was because of growing as a person, having a life experience to teach me how to and how not to act, you know, how to and how not to react, really. So that person was damaged, unresolved, and wasn't taking the best care of herself. One thing that I did want to kind of make sure that I made important was that you can heal from your past self and you can gain independence from your past self. And the reason I want to make sure that I emphasize this is because I know what it feels like to feel like you can't. And even until not super, super long ago, did I realize that I could be who I currently am, independent from who I used to be. Because I've changed certain habits, I've changed certain lifestyle factors. Um, but it's possible. Sometimes we feel like we've been, in certain ways for so long that we can't change them, or people may judge us, or it may be too difficult, or whatever. We don't have the skills, whatever the case may be. But you can literally learn anything at any age, uh, for the most part. We've seen kids learn phenomenal things. We've seen, you can learn almost anything at almost any age. You can gain independence from your former self, your past self, and it is possible, and it's necessary most of the time, because even healthy past selves, because of age and maturity, we just benefit from growing as we get older. Um, so I want to make sure that it's understood that it is possible. And if you don't feel like it's possible, reach out to me. We can set up coaching services to get you where you feel like you need to be to make it possible. And, I can help you make that plan and execute it. And, but it's possible. It's possible. It's important. You owe it to yourself. You deserve it with the hard work that you've done to improve yourself, gaining independence, not saying, okay, I'm completely not that person anymore, because that person had reasons for their actions most of the time. That person had struggles and life experiences that made it difficult for them to not be who they were at that time, speaking from experience. And, not everybody has to go and get master's degrees to change their life. It's one of the reasons that myself and other people do what we do is because we have learned certain things, we've experienced certain things, and we want to help you grow from those things too. But I want to make sure that, it is possible to gain your independence from your past self, and it's possible, and it's important. It's necessary. I want to talk about a couple of things. So, as July, our focus is independence, focusing on independence from your past self, your unhealed self. And your current self may still be in the healing process. And maybe your past self is the one who endured the trauma and the pain, or the one who made the bad decisions. Because healing from ourselves is also about the choices that we make along the way. So, typically, when we talk about your past self, it's referring to 5-10 years out. Although it can, be as current as the past year. Referring back to my parenting workbook, which is also helpful in relationships, but I am going to be writing a separate one for relationships. But for now, we're going to just refer back to the parenting workbook. And if you haven't ordered it, I am going to promote it a little bit before this episode comes out. So you'll have some time to order one. But if you haven't, you can order it at philology.net or just email me. And so I want to first refer to the first chapter in this book. It is talking about adjustments. When you're looking back at, the person you used to be, or looking ahead at the person that you would like to become, it is an adjustment. There's an adjustment process. When you're planning to make adjustments in your life, you want to typically look back and reflect. Okay, what is it that I want to change? What has changed in the past year, 5-10 years that you want to work on, improve, grow from, change? What's changed? What's changed that you want to work on? Have you taken on any new roles? Have you taken on even any new habits, addictions, lifestyles that you want to grow from? Have you taken anything on in order to grow from these things, to grow, to heal, to improve? What's changed? What have you taken on? And how has your daily life changed? In the book, it talks about different things that have happened, over time, but I want to look specifically at loss or grief and health. The book talks about other things, education, politics, political events, and things like that. But I want to focus on loss, health, and even parenting or relationships. These three to me seem to be the biggest three that kind of can cause changes and can be things that we typically want to work on or grow from. Uh, the first one is going to be parenting or relationships. So it could be that, in light of adjustments, we are adjusting to parenthood or a new relationship. We're adjusting out of parenthood or a relationship. Our kids are growing up. They don't need us as much kind of thing, which is something that I have had to adjust to myself. Their relationships and things like that. Um, Taking on a new role in a relationship or a parental relationship. Maybe you've become a step parent. Maybe you've lost a child. Um, you know, in parenting and relationships, we go through a lot of emotions. Sometimes those can be difficult to process and even experience on a normal basis. It's important to remember that the people that we are parenting or in relationships with are also going through changes and learning as well. So give yourself a little bit of patience, but also give the other person a little bit of patience. A lot of times we kind of forget to shift perspective, and shifting your perspective is a good way to adjust to life changes in parenting and relationships. You know, our partner or our kid or the loss of their child for the other parent, grandparent, whatnot, is not necessarily going to process the same way that ours will. Um, you know, Looking back at your past self and when your kids were younger, when the relationship was healthy, before the loss, you probably were a different person. And now you're kind of finding yourself in a in as a difficult person. You're difficult to yourself because you don't know how to adjust. Or you are trying to do the opposite. You're trying to adjust into being a healthy, less difficult person than you were when the relationship was difficult, the parenting was difficult, and things like that. So, adjustments, it can go either way. It could be you adjusting to a difficult situation, or it could be you adjusting your current self from the difficult person your past self was. Either way, patience, perspective, learning how to adjust to changes, taking perspective of the other person, and realizing that you have to work separately together. And what I mean by that is the person that you're experiencing this shift from, you and your past self, you have to work separately as a new person to work together with your past self to heal from the past self or to heal what your current self is going through that your past self hasn't experienced yet. So it can go both ways. Adjusting to loss or grief. My past self adjusting to loss or grief was not healthy. What I used to do was just kind of pack everything away. And then my current self, even kind of my past self in process of adjusting, finally learned to talk about things and unpack things and feel and experience them. That was difficult. It was difficult because I put it off for so long and then kind of try to do it all at once, which is also another reason why adjustments are important. Taking steps to grow and heal and improve and not just trying to do everything all at once gives you a much better outcome than overloading yourself with just a sudden expectation of change. Um, to health changes, looking at your past self, if you were unhealthy and you're now working to be healthy, you're making life adjustments, or if your past self was healthy, my past self was super fit, and it wasn't even the children that I gave birth to. I can't even blame those pregnancies on me not being my past self physically because there are things that happened after I've given birth, and decisions that I've made to have me not where I want to be physically. Um, it all boils down to choices, life choices, how we deal with certain things. And grief is a component of that. Grief, difficulty in parenting, relationships, careers, things like that. They're all factors in those decisions that we make. And it's it's important that we accurately and in a healthy way adjust to health changes, to our physical health, our mental health, therapy. I recommend therapy for everything, for adjustments in your relationships or parenting, adjustments to your health, adjustments to your career, loss and grief. I recommend therapy for everything. So, adjusting to who you're working to become separately with your past self, how you adjust in a healthy way is imperative to creating independence from your past self while working together to heal or working to get back to you the components of your past self that were healthy. I have a couple of questions in the book that I want to ask. I want to ask you. Um, what is something that has happened in the past 5 years which you've had to adjust to? It could be positive or negative. How can you learn, grow, and change the situation into having the adjusted results that you want to see? It can, like I said, it can be positive growth from a negative past self, or it could be positive growth from your current self. You want to look back in 5 years and say, I've healed from my past self. Just like with anything, it's never too late. As long as you start, you haven't started too late. You just can't not start. You just can't stay stagnant in the unhealthy decisions because doing so prevents yourself from growth. I want to talk a little bit about stress next. In the book, I asked a couple of questions. What is stress to you personally? How can you identify stressors in your personal life? How do you currently attend to stress? And I'm going to cover kind of cover those things. In relation to independence from your past self, your present self has an important responsibility to managing stress. Managing stress is one big way that you can heal from your past stress, your past self, independently heal from your past self. And this is something that I still work on a lot. I've improved a lot, but it's still, I've got a lot to do. Um, First, be aware of indicators. Stress can come from many places and it can have both positive and negative effects on our bodies. Stresses are internal and external things that contribute to our stress. So maybe your past self didn't handle stress very well and you're working on it. Um, Stress management is also imperative to independence from your past self. You want your current self to be able to manage stress in a healthy way. Stress is gonna happen. Things are gonna happen that stress you out. Internal stressors, emotions, physical pain, income, personal beliefs, these are internal things. Spending habits, thoughts, and feelings of someone else's actions or personal actions. Your external stressors are the things that you can't control. Relationships. No, that's not true. External stressors are stressors outside of your body, relationships, abuse, addiction, finances, financial management, rather, your beliefs of others, possessions, physical possessions, actions made by other people. These are things that are outside of your body. And while sometimes you can't control them per se, like other people's actions, you can control your response to the things that you can't control that other people do. For me, it would probably be my response to people who suck at driving. I'm working on it, but man, it really irritates me. I don't have to yell at them though. I don't. I could probably not do that, but I'm aware. I'm self-aware of it. Uh, and that's really something that past me actually didn't do. And it's something that current me is working on future me not doing either. Uh, Stressors are things that can cause stress. Uh, Marriage, birth, adoption, celebrations, things like that. Things that they happen outside of you. And, preparing for these or even experiencing these can be stressful. They can create positive stress that can motivate you, or they can create negative stress that can harm you physically, mentally, emotionally, such as substance abuse, physical abuse, injury or illness, strained relationships, etc. It's important to know your internal external stressors. If you're in your 20s, maybe even 30s, these are probably things that your past self didn't know or didn't even know up till today. So, if you don't understand stress and stress management, it's more difficult to manage. So, learning about stress, the good, the bad, the manageable, the controllable, the unavoidable is a really big part in managing that stress for yourself and being a reflection to others on how to manage stress. I know that there are certain things that I could probably manage better that would teach my kids to manage stress better. And that is another thing that my current self is working to be better as my future self. Um, adjustments, healthy adjustments, knowing how to adjust in a healthy manner, stress management, understanding it, putting into place, two things that you can implement to gain independence from your past self or from your current self as your future self. Mind and body health. Like I said earlier, past me had absolutely minimum information and education on taking care of my mind and body. I went to the gym a lot, but you know, just doing one thing doesn't provide yourself holistic care. And although I went to the gym, I drank alcohol at inappropriate times. I overindulged. I wasn't the best parent that I could have been. I wasn't processing trauma and stress the way I should have been. And I feel like I do most of those things now because um, I've learned how to. Uh, but catering to your mental and physical health not only includes medical care, because that is important, having a medical care plan in place, being educated about personal health care, knowing the common illnesses in your area or in your family, that's important too. You need to know what preventative care is important. Physical health, mental health, sexual health, financial health, and emotional health. These are all important. Your spiritual health, whatever that may be, that's separate. We'll talk about that later, but just being aware, having plans in place, having education on your physical, mental, sexual, financial, and emotional health. All of these factors play a part into your overall health, your holistic well-being, and not catering to one and catering to others doesn't give you a balance. One thing I want you to take away is that you have to have all factors in place, right? Like you have to pay attention to all of the areas because neglecting one leads to neglecting all of them or providing yourself an imbalance. Being aware, being educated, and being focused on all the areas of health importance gives you an independence from your past self that knew nothing about this and provides opportunity for your future self to be successful in your personal health care. I'm going to skip over parental, but parental health is in the book. Parental and relationship health, because I'm not gonna go super into. I'm not gonna go super into that here. It is something that we'll talk about in my episode on your independence from parenting. Um, but addiction. I want to talk about addiction really quickly. Uh, addiction is kind of a touchy subject because, I, I have met people who have gone their whole lives without substance or alcohol abuse or addiction. And, you know, Obviously, it is possible. Sometimes it kind of seems like when you're in a world where you grow up around certain things, you kind of feel like, oh, well, everybody goes through this, right? But everybody doesn't have to go through it. And if I feel like if we educated ourselves and our children and our families more on substance abuse prevention and management, we could make it less common. Um, but it just begins with education, healing our own selves from our past addictions and abuses so that we can understand and move forward and can help others be preventative. Um, one thing about addiction is most people don't like being told that they are having an issue, right? Uh, People who are in active addiction have to want help and be receptive to it, even if not initially. Sometimes approaching it the right way can bring that up, that readiness. I'm going to touch really quick on the difference between a habit and addiction. A habit is something you can control. Sugar habits, caffeine, cigarettes, alcohol, medication. These things can all lead into an addiction if you don't control the habit, if you don't cut it out of your diet, your practices. An addiction is something we need to perform out of dependence. It's a necessity that our brain can't even change. Addiction takes treatment and life changes, adjustments, stress management, and holistic health. These things are important factors in healing and growing from your past, gaining independence from your past self, or working to gain independence from your current self in the future. Um, Asked a couple questions in the beginning, and I would like to get your response on that. What's changed for you in the past 5, 10 years? Have you taken on a new role as well as how you put your holistic care into place? Or how could you? If you don't have answers for those questions, what could you change to provide answers? What is it that you need to work on to have your care plan in place? So I hope the information was helpful. And don't forget, if you haven't ordered your copy, you can do so at philology.net or reach out to me on social media. And see you next time. One thing that I did want to kind of make sure that I made important was that you can heal from your past self and you can gain independence from your past self. And the reason I want to make sure that I emphasize this is because I know what it feels like to feel like you can't. And even until not super, super long ago, did I realize that I could be who I currently am, independent from who I used to be. Because I've changed certain habits, I've changed certain lifestyle factors. Um, but it's possible. Sometimes we feel like we've been, in certain ways for so long that we can't change them, or people may judge us, or it may be too difficult, or whatever. We don't have the skills, whatever the case may be. But you can literally learn anything at any age, uh, for the most part. We've seen kids learn phenomenal things. We've seen, you can learn almost anything at almost any age. You can gain independence from your former self, your past self, and it is possible, and it's necessary most of the time, because even a healthy past selves, because of age and maturity, we just benefit from growing as we get older. Um, so I want to make sure that it's understood that it is possible. And if you don't feel like it's possible, reach out to me. We can set up coaching services to get you where you feel like you need to be to make it possible. And, I can help you make that plan and execute it. And, but it's possible. It's possible. It's important. You owe it to yourself. You deserve it, with the hard work that you've done to improve yourself, gaining independence, not saying, okay, I'm completely not that person anymore, because that person had reasons for their actions most of the time. That person had struggles and life experiences that made it difficult for them to not be who they were at that time, speaking from experience. And, not everybody has to go and get master's degrees to change their life. It's one of the reasons that myself and other people do what we do is because we have learned certain things, we've experienced certain things, and we want to help you grow from those things too. But I want to make sure that, you know, it is possible to gain your independence from your past self, and it's possible, and it's important, it's necessary.